Gentlemen, so we're gonna call the meeting to order now that Mr. Rhodes is here. So welcome to the Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, March 27th. This meeting is called to order. Discussion and possible action on February 27th minutes.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda, we have a possible action on conditional use permit, continuance, review fuel station at 1611 Maxwell Drive, Caribbean Car Wash. Mr. Darnold?
This conditional use permit, this is the Shell station on Maxwell Drive, just east of Carmichael Road and south of Hanley Road. This conditional use permit was initially approved in 2003 and reviewed in 2009 and approved for continuance. And then at that time was approved for a 5-year period. There have been no issues in regard to this, and the conditional use permit is for the fuel station itself. There were 2 conditions placed on the original conditional use permit. One is that they're limited to 4 pumps, and secondly, it conforms to state and federal requirements. I recommend approval of continuance with those 2 conditions. I guess it's up to the Planning Commission whether you want to recommend a review period, such as the last was 5 years, or where you just want to let it go.
Do we do anything with any other gas stations? I mean, are these the only guys that fall into this set of rules?
They're one of the few that were developed after 1993 when we went to this requirement. So
I just have a question on the name. Is it still Caribbean or is it Regal?
No, it's Regal.
So we would. I have to get switched. Yeah. Okay, so we have the option to take away the conditional use permit for the future, or is it going to?
No, you always have a procedure. If there was a violation of the conditional use permit, what we would do is we would set up a public hearing. It'd go before the Common Council, and the issues would be presented, and if the Common Council found that they wanted to withdraw the conditional use permit, then they could do that.
Okay.
So there is a procedure that's in place.
But we can take away the having to come back, the reviews?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Well,
Go ahead.
you said it was put in place in 1985 after,
no,
93.
or 93 after something else?
No, it was just a change of the zoning, our overall zoning ordinance.
Requires.
New rules for that.
New rules for this particular type of use.
Okay.
I don't see why they have to come back for a review. I mean, I live right there. There's never they're running a gas station, car wash like any other one in town.
Mm-hmm.
So
Why was it set up conditional use then? Just because it was new and it was different?
Well, because it's a fuel station and potential environmental issues. Most fuel stations now are required to have double lining on all the tanks and so forth. They're highly regulated.
This one is not?
No,
Oh,
this
it
one
is.
but that's part of the reasons why one of the conditions is that, they have to continue to conform with state and federal regulations. If they're in non-conformance with those, they're in non-conformance with a conditional use permit.
But there's no difference in terms of their requirements from any other station in town?
Not that I'm aware of.
right.
And they also have a limit of 4 pumps.
And they're actually closed more than any other station in town in reality,
Well,
early on
I'll
Sundays.
move to approve, and then I will also add to eliminate the need for whatever frequency review. I mean, I will leave it up to the normal process that if something should happen, it would come before us without us having to be involved.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is discussion possible action on a petition for annexation of approximately 18 acres of the southeast quadrant of Hanley Road and State Highway 35.
And I received a telephone call late this afternoon that representatives of Central Bank was not going to be able to attend today. I'm recommending approval by the Planning Commission to the Common Council for the annexation. Typically, we have an annexation agreement, which we really address the financial considerations, and I listed those. One would be the payment of impact fees. Now, state law requires impact fees now to be paid at time of building permit, so it's not something to be immediate to the city, but if that parcel is next to the city, a developer came in for a request for a building permit, then we collect impact fees. The St. Croix Business Park Corporation extended sanitary sewer and water adjacent to that site to get to the St. Croix Business Park East. That cost that was pro rata for that particular area, 21 acres, the 18 acres were being requested for annexation, and 3 acres that's currently in the city was $120,000. So I'll be taking that issue back to the St. Croix Business Park Corporation Board as to when they would want to get repaid for that. And so, I mean, it's a reimbursement to the I just am addressing it now because I want to make sure it gets addressed and it doesn't get, it's not neglected and we lose track of it. So it'd be up to the corporation board to determine when that reimbursement would be made. And the third is the property owner would be responsible for roadway access improvements to and from Highway 35. That'd be cost to be determined based on what access improvements would be. Then there's the fourth one I forgot to list. Very minor, is that state law requires cities to reimburse towns for lost taxes. The town share of the taxes lost because it's brought into the city, that amounts to about $400 per year. So over a 5-year period of time, there'd be a total payment that would come from the developer to the city, to the town, for approximately $2,000.
Is that something new?
No.
It's about 6 years old.
Well,
And that was to help the towns recover some potential tax loss.
What's the issue, Denny, of the designation of the property? I read that it was designated industrial and, or general commercial. I mean, please explain that
Well,
if you'd be so kind.
The current land use designation is commercial in our comprehensive plan. The intended use of this property by a potential buyer, which is United Property, would be for industrial use. In 1993, the city had this, in our comprehensive plan, had this parcel designated as industrial. In 2009, when the comprehensive plan was updated, at the last minute, the owner came in and said, we'd really like to have this commercial, and the parcel that Uline is now currently on also was the same, and the city changed the designations to commercial. Now we're kind of back again, so we're kind of going back to what the designations were in 1993. You know, it's just a difference between, okay, do we want it developed as commercial or we want it developed as industrial? I think the city, even back in 2009, when it was changed, was, well, you know, which way did the developer want to develop it? And now, so, but that action would not take
That's a separate
place
issue.
until after the annexation, so Central Bank will have to assume some risk that after the property, because we don't have zoning authority when it's in the town of Troy. So afterwards, Central Bank will have to acknowledge that they will need to apply for a change of land use designation and also rezoning after the annexation occurs. So that issue will be reviewed by the Planning Commission sometime in the future if the property is annexed by the city.
Thank you.
okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I will so move to annex with the stipulations that Denny has put on there, the 4 instead of 3.
Please. Yes, please.
Okay. Is there a second?
Yes.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, discussion and possible action of development plans for a 1,385-foot square deck and a 2,576-square-foot ground-level patio, 601 Second Street. Smiling Moose.
Now, Tom Tamero and Bruce Lenzen are here tonight to discuss their proposal for addition of a deck onto the building at 601 Second Street, which is now close to the Smiling Moose Restaurant and Bar. Bruce has prepared some illustrations showing what is being proposed. I called or emailed Tom this morning, said I really, forewarning, I really wasn't anticipating having final action on this tonight, but for them to introduce the subject issues to be brought out, we bring it back in 2 weeks and act on it at that time, because there's going to be some issues in regards to payment in lieu of parking and also sewer connections. I want to make sure totally understood by Tom and before the Plan Commission makes a recommendation. At the last time project was discussed, there were some concerns expressed by a couple of Plan Commission members where payment in lieu of parking is something we still want to pursue or not. So again, I don't know if those attitudes have changed or not, but maybe we would turn the floor over to Bruce and let him present the proposed plans, and then we can have a discussion. Bruce, you can do it right up here, please, and the camera can get it.
There's a mic there too. Grab that. This mic.
Okay,
You can hold it. Take it out and hold it.
out of there.
all right.
Thank you.
All right, guess it's on.
Sounds like it.
All right. This is a rendering of the proposed patio and deck. Danny had spoken of the area, the sizes. The patio itself protrudes 31 feet to the west and encompasses the west of the building. It is held in 1 foot from each side. There's a stairwell that leads from that deck to the lower level. And then on the sidewalk here is the public access to the patio area and also to the upper deck. The lower deck I designed with a landscape buffer here, planter area, and then green space along the east, west, and south side with some larger plantings in those areas. The lower deck or lower patio will include the items. There will be a bar of similar sizes to what is in the main level of the Smiling Moose now. There's a fireplace feature. The materials to be used are basically a modular retaining wall block, and it will need to be elevated approximately 30 inches from the existing alley. The deck is made of spancrete, it's all concrete decking, and then there will be a canopy that will standing seam, which will match the facade of the building, and the materials that are being used are going to be replicated here also. And that stretches across the back of the building and over the stairwell of the building. On the north side of the building, there is a tall wall. It's about a 10-foot wall for both privacy to the neighbors, and that wall is continued on the lower level also.
Excuse me, so is that wall different than what's in this rendering?
I don't believe so.
Should be the same.
Should be the same.
Tall on that second level?
10 foot starts from here and it goes to, the 10 foot's from the base.
It doesn't show it right here, that's why.
Oh,
Oh, to go over the line.
okay. Just might have been printed incorrectly. Here's the actual configuration of the upper patio. Here's the west side of the existing restaurant. That's the big open doors. This is, right now it's planned for seating here. Here's the staircase that goes to the lower level. A little bus station in here for service. And on the patio area, this is where the stairs come down, and it's just general seating. And then this shows the fireplace area. The green space buffer with like a drink rail, similar to what is at Pure 500. Same look as that. And that comes up to here, and the egress and ingress is right here, about at midpoint on the property there. And there's a green space up in here as a buffer to the sidewalk.
And there's two entrances to the patio from the sidewalk?
No, there's one here.
Okay. What's this, what am I looking at here? Okay. All right. No, I was looking at the door from, I got it.
Are you butting your westerly wall? You said 30 inches up, or is that butting right up to the existing driveway that's between the Phipps and then behind?
I have it set back slightly, like 6 inches at this time. And it's, like I said, it's about a
Go
30
through
inch.
there? I mean, I don't know, that's why I guess I was asking, is that a used delivery route for things, and do you need the width there? I mean, I don't know, I'm asking the question.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, typically, it can go up, but the issue is, if we get snow plows that go through there, plowing snow, you know, it may behoove them to move that back a little bit, just so there's some margin for error, but, I mean, that's something snow removal would be my biggest concern.
Well, yeah,
But
you'll
you
blow
also-
it right up on your patio.
You also may have truck deliveries that are taking a wide turn where would be concerning or not. That's maybe something, what we're trying to do is raise some issues that might need to be addressed.
So that's a good question. So where are truck deliveries then? I mean, are they gonna go in the aisle side? Because otherwise that makes congestion
Well, I
on
think-
Locust Street.
I think specifically for yours, that they're all off Locust Street, aren't they? Or-
Yes, the garage that we have on the street. That's where we take them to the recycle. And our garbage corrals will be in there as well, the recycle.
And where's the
Will be where?
garage gonna be?
And it's right here on your plan, on the patio level of the
Right.
plan. There's a existing garage door, and that's where they're taking. And this is where waste receptacles and everything. Right now, they're out here, in the back area. That'll all go inside and be enclosed.
I have another question, if I may ask. Does the city have any liability? Let's say you have a patron in the place and they fall out of the place, they trip, they fall, they do something, they land on the city sidewalk, or vice versa, or fall in the alley or something, I mean, without having a fence or a wall there, I mean, it could happen. Or people walking in and out, not through your intended entrance. A 30-inch wall isn't gonna stop somebody from jumping up and coming in through that way. And I guess I'm just concerned, is there any insurance liability? Does the city have any concern there? Is there anything that we need to be worried about by not having it fenced in, or with a more controlled entry or anything like that? I don't know, I'm not trying to be negative, I'm asking the question.
I don't think we do. The only one that I would talk about would maybe, Bruce, if you could take that particular one down, is the entrance from the street, whether or not some sort of control there, or whether, who can come in and out of there? Obviously, there is no door or gate, and I'm not sure, I'm thinking of some of the other places don't have it either, but.
Well, some do and some
Some
don't. Pledges does, but
Right.
Pier 500 doesn't, so I don't want to be negative, but
No.
it is a point.
So I had a couple, that's a good one. Seating, how many people will be seated here, Tom, or Bruce? How many people can you get on the deck?
On the deck,
118?
100.
Well, on the deck,
No.
it's 50 seats.
50
Yep.
seats.
So
Yeah.
your low capacity might be more than that.
Yep. That's on the upper deck or the lower?
No, the deck, the upper deck.
The upper deck.
And the patio is 68.
So, 150 people, well, maybe less than that, 130,
It's just, seems based on 118, so.
okay. And I noticed on the one drawing we had, I don't know if I see it or not, there's speakers there,
Yes, there are.
okay? Have you talked to your neighbors at all, the Phipps and, sure, if you can go up there so we could, yep.
Speakers, I thought those were lights.
No speakers.
Okay, regarding these speakers,
Uh-huh.
we have several patios with our other restaurants around the cities, and the way we do it is we put several speakers out there instead of just a few, and that might be alarming. You think, oh my gosh, a lot of speakers, but actually, if you put a lot of speakers out, around the perimeter and you face them inwards and down, they actually don't have to be turned up as loud, and you can keep the noise to a minimum. So I have not had any discussions with the FIPS. I've had discussions with my next door neighbor, John. I don't know. I don't foresee our noise level affecting the FIPS because when they have concerts inside, we certainly can hear their music coming out. So I don't know how they would hear our noise going in.
What I was looking for, Tom, is I think we have an outside noise decibel.
Sure.
That we passed, I think, a couple years ago downtown for the outside area, and I think it was for everybody. So I think that's just something that we need to look at for, and I don't remember exactly, that's what I was looking for, and I can't seem to find it tonight, so. There is a sound for outside noise for the bar restaurants, I think.
So they'd have to meet that. So.
Right. Just,
That would not be an issue for us. We don't have any intention of having blaring music out there at all. It would be background music for the enjoyment of the people sitting there, and
Okay.
no one else on the outside.
okay.
So.
Any other questions?
So now do we talk about parking?
Certainly.
Or do we stay away from that one and wait
Oh,
for
I
the
think
next
it's a-
meeting?
Well, how do they plan to handle it? I mean,
Well, it's what I, in past, when Tom and I started talking about some of these issues last June, I believe, and, one of the questions I asked was, is the bottom level of the building gonna be utilized? There was some discussion about a meeting room, there was some other very, very preliminary discussions about a possible brew pub, where that'd be the brewing area. And Tom's reply today, because I want to double check with him to make sure what the status of it is that there is no intention other than storage, and correct me, Tom, or maybe you want to explain out what your proposal for the first floor of the building is.
Sure. Okay. We do have a small meeting room downstairs that's in the works. We have a building permit for the lower level right now. And the whole idea is we had the Lions Club meeting there previously, and then the boosters, they were meeting in the back room on a regular basis. And when we first took over, they asked us if we were going to find a spot for them, and we promised to do something in the lower level. So the lower level had an area that was previously used by the Smith family for something similar to that, but over the years, they just let it go and quit using it. So it's a 20 by 30 foot space that we're going to finish off. We have the permit already with David Gray. We're going to finish that off just for a small private meeting room. 30 people is the max seating down there. With regards to the brew pub, it was our intention originally. I've got two separate groups of great brewers that I wanted to get in down there, and I know, Denny, you've probably talked to them both. But we have just pretty much gobbled up the whole basement with storage, or have plans for storage for additional coolers, or maybe a possible additional prep area for the kitchen. So it's not feasible, and I'm personally sad about that, because they make some great beer. So that is definitely off the table. That the brew pub won't be there. So.
Do you have an elevator going downstairs, or do you need to have an elevator going downstairs for ADA?
David Gray, our building inspector, but apparently there's no requirement for an elevator. Bruce, maybe you can answer that
okay.
question. But.
That's my understanding with David's.
Correct. We just modified the existing stairwell
Got it.
to make it more accessible, I
Right,
guess
right,
be the way to
okay.
put it.
So who's parking in those parking spots now? Because every time I've walked by, they're always filled. So are those guests or employees or?
In the back parking lot?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we haven't had much because it's been a dumpster and a trailer for our construction guys.
But before the construction started,
It was
always full.
employees, always employees.
How many spots were down there?
6.
6.
How many?
About
6?
6, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a unique situation. You end up being double parked, so it's really
Right.
only works for employees, basically, because otherwise the first 3 can't get out.
Can I just get, Bruce, where is this wall? So, because Sanding Agency is right next to you. So, and I know they have parking. Where does their building end, if you look
Their
at this?
building, from this elevation from the corner of the existing building, their building exists east probably 25 feet. It actually goes away from the river
Right,
up
right.
much further. I'd guess it right around 25 feet or so.
So you've shown them these plans? So they'll know
Discussed
what-
them. They haven't seen them yet. We've been basically talking about doing it every day this week, but neither of us have been able to connect. But I have a good relationship with them.
So Danny, you talked a little bit about the parking. I mean,
Well, there's a couple of issues. One is they got 6 parking spaces
Right.
now. They're taking those out, so you
Yep.
have a loss. We also have a provision that buildings up to 6,000 square feet have an exemption from required off-street parking. This building, if you take the first and second floors, you have approximately about 88,600 square
Right.
feet. And that's the reason I was asking a question about how the
Yes.
first floor may be used. Then I'm looking at it, well, if a floor of a building is not typically used or used for storage or something that's really not generating traffic,
Yes.
whether that should be included in the count as far as square foot of the building. So, I mean, there's some ambiguities within this ordinance, and so that's why I go and try to understand what's being proposed, and then try to work out what the potential is for the payment in lieu of parking. So that's why I want to try to accomplish in the next 2 weeks.
Wasn't that, I mean, with balance here, of course, part of that was intended at smaller buildings, so the parking did not cripple or hurt them, or they couldn't afford it.
Well,
I mean,
there's-
part of it was that.
There's some areas in downtown parking you really you have no opportunity for for parking.
Right.
I mean, they're just not available. And if buildings were gonna be expanded or uses changed and so forth, then this lieu of parking would be an opportunity, rather than provide off-street parking, pay in, and where the city would use the funds to either build parking lots or lease private parking for public use, or potentially build a ramp. Now, you know, we've got a study ongoing in regards to a potential ramp. One of the sites is the public safety lot or Williams lot across the street. And at some point, the council may have to determine, are we going to continue this payment in lieu of parking, or are we going to try to go
Right.
the route of the ramp? And if that case, I would suspect that you're going to get into some form of assessment for all properties in downtown, minus the amount of parking that they're providing. So there has to be some net consideration. So some of those considerations may, in where this payment in lieu of parking continues or not, if people have paid into it, then we
Right.
have to consider how that credit's given against
Right.
what they're set. So there's a number of issues that have to be looked at.
Well, and on the positive side, you've got the band shell parking lot by you, which is good, and then Wells Fargo, and then and then the other one, and so you
there are
get,
still many times when you can't find a
oh, I
place.
understand
Fargo
that,
was
and
packed
that,
tonight.
and then you get in the summertime when you got something going on downtown, and you got a good crowd at your place. Oh boy,
Right.
you got a mess. So.
I mean, I do think the, challenges is, what's fair and what, I mean, $97,000 is a lot.
That'd probably be the very maximum. I think it's gonna be lower than that, maybe considerably lower, but that's why I wanna take
No,
a look at it.
yes.
And another issue that's really not an issue for the plan commission, but is an issue for the common council, is the premises description, which allows them the area upon which alcohol can be sold. And the council may choose not to award a premises for this entire area. That's totally up to their discretion.
So right now, alcohol wouldn't be permitted to be served on the patio?
Under their current description, no.
So they
would have to come back, get an amended premises description on their alcohol license, and the council would have discretion
approve or not
on,
approve?
correct.
Obviously, I wouldn't think they'd want to put the money into this if they couldn't serve alcohol out there.
Well, exactly.
Well, it's coming.
You are correct.
The patio.
Pretty observant, huh?
Yeah.
So is the patio is or isn't considered part of the extra square footage, then that's that gray area?
No, it'd be considered.
Part of
Would
it.
be considered.
Absolutely.
That's what I thought.
Building portion. The patio would not, the deck would be, because the deck is an addition onto the building.
So that'd be
Okay.
covered under
Patio.
that.
So the patio isn't?
Correct. Well, I mean,
Deck, yeah.
Well, the patio has how much seating? That's why I'm
It's,
asking you.
it's,
68.
50
Yeah.
and
58?
50
But
and
it's not
80.
considered part of the addition, the deck is.
So the deck is covered for alcohol service, the patio.
No,
is-
none of it is,
There is.
but
That's
as
a
far as
separate
payment in
issue.
lieu of parking, it's just the deck, not the
That wasn't the
patio.
original blueprint, yeah.
So Denny, what are you looking for us tonight?
Well, I just want an opportunity for
Yep.
them to come in, explain the project, identify issues, postpone consideration tonight. We'll bring it back in 2 weeks and rediscuss it.
I'll make a motion to postpone until the next plan commission meeting in 2 weeks.
Is there a second?
Go ahead, Frank.
Thank you.
Any, just one little more discussion. You guys have any questions or comments that you'd like to ask?
I just had one comment left. With regards to the location, 6 inches off the alley or right on the alley, or with that regard, I just want to point out that the Phipps has a curb with grass that goes right up to the edge of the alley currently. So, I mean, it was our discussion that, okay, they come right to the edge, let's back it off 6 inches, just give a little room, if you follow me there. So I just wanted to explain our thinking on that. I mean, you could keep going back and back, but at what point, I mean, they've got an established curb that's got grass right to it.
Maybe you don't have to, or maybe you can just round the corner there a little bit, or do something else to
Right.
accommodate turning in and turning out and
Sure.
some other things. I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud.
And the radius for the street's gonna be out, at the street curb and not.
Past the
not
sidewalk.
At the corner of the patio, so.
Right.
Is that standard width alley?
Typically, those are 16 and a half
16.
feet wide, yeah.
16
A
and a half.
rod width, it's common.
Okay, anything else?
That's all I got.
How's your opening going? It seems to be,
Been very busy, very pleasantly busy.
that's great.
I was cooking right before I came up here, so.
We had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any other items for future agenda?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.